you didn't vanish. You were pulled out of reach for a reason, because what's coming now is finally worth your time. Some of you have been wondering why you disappeared from your old life, why you stepped back, went quiet, stopped showing up the way you used to. Here's the truth nobody ever told you. Your isolation wasn't a collapse, it was timing. And I believe most people never realize when life is protecting them rather than punishing them. Because in reality, you weren't hiding, you were being preserved. And what's starting to rise towards you now is so much bigger than anything you walked away from. The world forgot you on purpose, but the right moment never forgets. There's a reason the gifted ones always slip away before their life changes. They dim themselves. They walk away. They stop trying to be seen. Not because they lose their power, but because they're carrying something the world isn't ready for yet. And this is exactly where the upcoming Sagittarius Moon shift comes in. Every time we enter this kind of fire-aligned lunar energy, it exposes what's been overlooked, what's been quiet, what's been hiding in plain sight. This moon doesn't just illuminate, it remembers. It pulls forward every person who stepped into the shadows because their timing hadn't arrived yet. And now, as this shift grows stronger, the universe is turning a searchlight toward the ones who vanished on purpose. You thought it was gone forever, but it's been circling back to you this whole time. There's a moment in every gifted person's journey where they let go of something they never wanted to lose. Sometimes it's a dream that became too heavy to carry. Sometimes it's a version of themselves they didn't feel worthy of anymore. Sometimes it's a passion that felt too far out of reach. Whatever it was, you convinced yourself it had faded out of your life for good. But the truth is, it never stopped orbiting you. This Sagittarius moon doesn't bring back the past. It brings back the signal that leads you toward the part of yourself you buried because you didn't think you'd get another chance. It lights up the path you stopped walking, not by forcing you down it, but by reminding you that your story didn't end where you paused it. There's something stirring inside you right now, something familiar yet newly sharpened. Not nostalgia, recognition. The kind that makes you feel that quiet internal shift of, why does this feel alive again? This moon has a way of reigniting what went dim. It brings back the spark you thought the world stole from you. It reminds you of the exact moment you walked away, and the deeper truth that it was never meant to stay gone. That lingering feeling you've had, the one that keeps tugging at the edge of your awareness, it's not imagination, it's alignment. And for the first time in a long time, something inside you is whispering that maybe, just maybe, it's not too late after all. Because what's returning now isn't the old dream. It's the power you thought you lost with it. You went into hiding to survive, but now the danger is gone. There are experiences that chase you long after they're over, moments that cornered you, people who drained you, environments that made you shrink just to stay intact. You didn't walk away because you were weak. You walked away because something was hunting the parts of you that were too precious to lose. Your retreat wasn't an escape, it was instinct. The kind of instinct that protects rare souls long before they understand what they're protecting. But here's what's shifting under this Sagittarius moon. The thing you were running from isn't chasing you anymore. The cycle that kept pulling you backward has dissolved. The pattern that kept testing you has run out of power. The weight that used to follow you doesn't recognize you anymore. This moon brings a strange new feeling, safety, not because the world changed, but because you did. For the first time in a long time, you're not reacting to survival mode. You're not bracing for the next hit. You're not dimming yourself to avoid being noticed. Freedom doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives as the moment you realize nothing is stalking your light anymore. The Sagittarius Moon is a green light for the ones who learn to live in the dark. It's a signal that you don't have to hide the brightest parts of yourself to stay protected. What hunted you cannot reach you now. This is the moment where defense turns into direction and your silence turns into strength. The silence around you wasn't rejection, it was protection. A lot of people look back at the last year of their life and label it as abandonment, loneliness, or a decline in purpose. But what if the universe wasn't shutting you out, it was sheltering you? Think about how many environments you didn't fit into anymore, how many people you slowly drifted away from, how many plans dissolved before they even began. At the time, it felt like everything was slipping out of your hands. But now, as we move into this Sagittarius moon, you're beginning to see that nothing slipped. You were being pulled away from what would have diluted you. There's a kind of silence that doesn't suffocate. It fortifies. It separates you from the noise long enough for you to remember who you actually are. When everyone else was trying to outrun their own emptiness, you were being placed in a stillness where you couldn't avoid your truth. Not as punishment, but as preparation. You weren't being excluded, you were being refined. While others rushed ahead, you were hidden in plain sight, being kept safe from decay. It's easy to think you fell behind. But look closely. You didn't miss anything that belonged to you. You were spared from paths that would have drained your energy, from people who would have taken more than they ever returned, and from opportunities that would have demanded pieces of you that weren't meant to be spent. You don't realize how much you are being protected until you step back into the world and finally feel the difference. Your presence is stronger. Your intuition is louder. Your boundaries are clearer. You're not returning as someone who was forgotten. You're returning as someone who was held back until the world was aligned enough to receive you properly. And with this Sagittarius moon peaking soon, that alignment is no longer forming in the distance. It's landing right at your feet. It's not anxiety. It's your future trying to contact you. A lot of people right now are feeling something they can't explain. A strange restlessness. A pull towards something they can't name. A sensation that something is shifting, but not inside them, around them. It's like standing at the edge of a moment that hasn't introduced itself yet, but you can already feel it watching you back. This sensation doesn't feel like excitement. It doesn't feel like fear. It feels like recognition, as if some part of your path is moving toward you faster than you expected, and your spirit is trying to adjust before your mind catches up. That heaviness in your chest, that sudden clarity in your thoughts, that urge to reorganize your life without knowing why, none of it is random. You're not malfunctioning, you're aligning. What's approaching isn't pressure, it's purpose. And purpose always arrives louder to the ones who've been quiet for too long. You might feel like you're being pulled somewhere without a map. That's because the map is being rewritten as you move. The future is not calling you from far away, it's stepping into your present. Your purpose always arrives early, your understanding just catches up later. If things feel unfamiliar right now, it's because you're entering a chapter where familiarity has no job. This is new terrain, and you're not being asked to predict it, only to recognize that you're being moved toward it for a reason. The calling feels strange because it isn't echoing from the past. It's coming from the version of you that already knows where this is going. You didn't go into hiding to escape. You went in to be reformed. When you look back at the period where you stepped away, it's easy to assume you were simply retreating, shutting down, or trying to survive whatever life was throwing at you. But as we move closer to this Sagittarius moon, you're starting to realize that the person who disappeared is not the person who's emerging. You didn't go quiet because you were collapsing. You went quiet because something inside you was being rebuilt from the ground up. The truth is, you changed while nobody was watching. And that's the most powerful way to change. You grew in ways even you didn't fully notice. Your thinking shifted, your priorities reorganized, your instincts sharpened. Your silence wasn't stagnation, it was an upgrade happening behind the curtain. While everyone else was racing to stay visible, you were evolving in a space where nothing could interrupt your transformation. You may feel behind, but spiritually, you're ahead. You process things at a depth most people avoid. You question parts of yourself most people never confront. You became more precise, more aware, more intentional, and nobody saw it happening. What looked like a breakdown was actually a remastering, a restructuring of your inner world that could only happen away from the noise. Growth that happens in silence becomes power that speaks for itself. There's a reason the outside world may feel slightly different now. It's not the world that shifted, it's you. You don't respond the way you used to. You don't shrink the way you used to. You don't chase the things you once thought you needed. The person stepping back out is not a weaker version of the one who entered. It's a version with sharper edges, clearer vision, and a deeper sense of self. This Sagittarius moon marks the moment where the world begins to catch up to who you've become. Your energy hits differently now. Your presence carries more weight. The path ahead feels unfamiliar because you're no longer navigating it with an old identity. You didn't get lost, you evolved. And this is the first time your evolution finally has space to breathe. Silence is not absence. It's a warning. The world never knows what to do with the ones who go still. People assume silence means you've stepped out of the game, that you've stopped caring, or that life has worn you down. But the gifted ones? Their silence is never empty. It's intentional. It's the period where energy that was once scattered begins to gather. It's the moment where power stops leaking outward and starts accumulating inward. During your quiet phase, others may have misunderstood you. They may have thought you disappeared because you had nothing left to offer. They may have assumed you were defeated or distracted or drifting without direction. But they didn't realize that the silence wasn't a result of weakness. It was a container for strength. You weren't wasting time. You were building something time couldn't interrupt. This upcoming Sagittarius moon exposes the truth. The quiet ones were never gone. They were simply becoming too aligned, too focused, too self-aware to operate at their old level. Holding your energy back didn't diminish your power, it concentrated it. You became more potent the moment you stopped giving the world access to every part of you. There's something undeniably powerful about withheld energy. When you're not broadcasting your every move, when you're not explaining your intentions, when you're not trying to prove yourself, you create an aura of unpredictability that makes people pay attention. They don't know what you're planning. They don't know what you're capable of now. And that uncertainty becomes your leverage. The gifted ones aren't dangerous because they speak loudly. They're dangerous because you never see their next move coming. This moon doesn't just illuminate their return, it amplifies the force behind it. Your quiet days didn't diminish you, they made your presence sharper. Your absence didn't weaken your influence, It strengthened the effect of your re-entry. The world is about to feel the difference between the version of you that left and the one that's stepping back in. You thought the soil was silence, but it was growth without interruption. There are parts of yourself you haven't met yet, gifts that went underground, the moment life became too loud, instincts that dimmed because the world around you wasn't safe enough to support them, and dreams you quietly buried because it felt easier than facing the disappointment of wanting something bigger. But as we move toward this Sagittarius moon, those buried pieces are starting to rise back to the surface, not randomly, not accidentally, but with a precision that almost feels orchestrated. This moon has a way of illuminating the parts of you that stayed active even when you weren't. Think about a passion you thought you'd lost, a talent you stopped using, a goal you abandoned because you didn't feel ready. Deep down, none of those things died. They simply grew where you couldn't see them. They strengthened in the dark. And now that the world around you is shifting, those inner parts suddenly have space to breathe again. It may shock you how naturally these gifts return. A skill you thought faded might feel sharper than ever. An idea you stopped thinking about might come back with clarity you never had before. Even certain people, the ones who align with who you're becoming, may re-enter your life as if pulled by gravity. Nothing about this is coincidence. Sagittarius reveals what has been preparing to re-emerge. Your gifts didn't disappear, they were maturing where doubt couldn't reach them. This re-emergence carries weight because it shows you that your potential didn't collapse when life got difficult. It rested. It reorganized. It took shape quietly so that when it resurfaced, it would show up fully formed. This moon isn't giving you something new, it's revealing what's always been yours, but finally ready to be used. And the beauty of this moment is that you're not returning to an old dream with old eyes. You're approaching it with the strength, clarity, and wisdom you gained during the period where you thought nothing was happening. In reality, everything was happening, you just weren't meant to see it yet. The real shot is only now appearing on the horizon. And this time, it's not missing. It's so easy to look back at your life and label certain moments as missed chances. The job you didn't take, the relationship you didn't pursue, the idea you didn't chase. But if you're honest with yourself, most of those moments didn't feel aligned. They felt forced, rushed, or slightly out of rhythm, as if you were trying to step into a life that wasn't built for who you were becoming. This Sagittarius moon brings a realization that might feel both comforting and empowering. You didn't miss anything that was meant for you. The timing simply wasn't mature enough to sustain your growth. This moon isn't about looking back at what could have been. It's about seeing, maybe for the first time, how small those old targets really were. The opportunities you once mourned wouldn't have held the version of you that exists now. You needed more space, more clarity, more self-trust, and the universe needed time to align the right path with the right version of you. What you're feeling now, that strange sense of anticipation, that pull towards something bigger, is the result of everything quietly falling into place. You weren't waiting for the right moment. The right moment was waiting for you. And now, as this Sagittarius moon rises, something in the distance is finally stepping into view. Your life isn't behind schedule, it's aligning with precision. The opportunities coming toward you aren't the recycled leftovers of your past. They're new, expansive, and worthy of who you've become. They match your upgraded identity. They match your new strengths. They match the direction your spirit has been trying to move in long before your mind caught up. You didn't lose your chance. You outgrew your old ones. And now, for the first time, the real shot, the one that was always meant to change your life, is finally within reach. There comes a point in every spiritual journey where the pressure to chase your destiny becomes exhausting. Not because you're lazy, unmotivated, or unaligned, but because you've poured so much of yourself into trying to move forward that the weight of constant effort becomes its own kind of burden. And for many people watching this, that's exactly where you've been lately. You're not resisting your purpose. You're simply out of breath from trying to hold your entire future together on your own. What nobody tells you is that destiny doesn't always respond to force. There are chapters in life where the universe doesn't want you to sprint. It wants you to stop running long enough to be seen. You can't receive what's meant for you if you're constantly out of reach, constantly chasing, constantly overextending. The energy of this upcoming Sagittarius Moon shifts the entire dynamic. Instead of demanding motion, it creates alignment. Instead of requiring effort, it opens pathways. Instead of rewarding hustle, it rewards readiness. This is the kind of energy that brings opportunities you didn't initiate, reconnects threads you thought were cut, and delivers breakthroughs that don't match the amount of effort you've been able to give. And that's the point. This moon doesn't support burnout spirituality, it supports the kind of destiny that moves toward you, because you've already become the person who can hold it. For those who feel too tired to manifest, too drained to visualize, or too overwhelmed to structure a 5-year plan, this is your reminder that magic doesn't only appear when you're performing at your highest level. Some of the most important doors don't open because you pushed. They open because you finally stopped forcing a direction that wasn't meant for you. Sagittarius energy works through timing, synchronicity, and alignment, not pressure. You're not behind. You're perfectly placed for what's about to walk in. It's comforting when you finally understand that life hasn't been punishing you for slowing down. It hasn't been withholding your blessings until you prove yourself again. It's been reorganizing itself around you, clearing the paths that were too small, too early, or too misaligned to support the version of you that's emerging right now. You might not realize it yet, but you've been naturally drifting away from the wrong timelines, the ones you were trying to force out of desperation or fear. And in that drifting, you've moved closer and closer to the intersection point where the right timeline can finally meet you without resistance. That moment isn't coming someday. It's forming right now. There will be situations, invitations, realizations, or encounters that feel strangely effortless, almost suspiciously aligned. Not because you're suddenly luckier, but because the phase of fighting for direction is ending. The universe knows where to find you now. You're visible again, not because you're loud, but because you're still. You don't have to chase the next chapter. Not this time. This chapter has already started walking toward you, and when it arrives, it will fit so naturally that you'll wonder why you ever thought you had to run to meet it. One of the most isolating experiences for a gifted person is believing that they're walking a path no one else understands. When you've spent months, or even years, feeling detached from the world, misunderstanding yourself, or questioning why you never fit into the environments that were supposed to feel normal, it becomes easy to think you're alone in this kind of evolution. But as we shift into this Sagittarius moon, something much bigger is happening beneath the surface. You're not the only one feeling this pull. You're not the only one sensing that something is waking up inside you. Across the world, people who share your strange patterns, your quiet depths, your hidden instincts, and your periods of disappearance, they're all starting to respond to the same energetic invitation. It's subtle but unmistakable. An internal click, a shift in awareness, a moment where everything unfamiliar suddenly feels purposeful. These aren't random individuals. These are the ones who were never meant to be ordinary. The ones who carried a kind of intensity that needed to mature in silence. The ones who withdrew not to hide, but to avoid wasting their potential in places that couldn't recognize it. This Sagittarius Moon acts like a broadcast. It sends out a frequency that only certain people can pick up, not because they're chosen in some grand mystical sense, but because their lives have shaped them into receivers. Their experiences, their struggles, their losses, their periods of invisibility. All of that made them sensitive enough to notice what others overlook. And just like you, they're beginning to feel the same internal thaw, the same forward movement, the same undeniable sense that something is shifting in their favor. What's extraordinary about this moment is that these individuals don't need to know each other to be connected. They're united by resonance, not proximity. Someone across the world who has never heard your name is experiencing the same push toward awakening, the same invitation to step out of the shadows, the same urge to break out of their old identity. It's a quiet synchronicity, but it's powerful. The gifted rise in waves, not in isolation. This is the beginning of the tribe remembering itself. The ones who have always felt different are starting to realize they're not anomalies. They're part of a collective shift that's unfolding simultaneously. Their silence shaped them. Their solitude prepared them. And now they are beginning to glow at the exact same time, like constellations that finally reveal the pattern they belong to. This moon doesn't just awaken individuals, it awakens networks. Connections that were once dormant begin to activate. You may notice new people entering your life who feel strangely familiar. You may encounter conversations that resonate deeper than anything you've had in years. You may feel drawn to certain spaces, interests, or communities without understanding why. That's the magnetic pull of alignment, the kind that only appears when the world is finally ready to support who you've become. The moment the hidden ones step out at the same time, the world stops underestimating them. What's coming now is not a solo journey. You will begin intersecting with people who mirror your awareness, your evolution, your quiet strength. Not because you need them to validate you, but because you were never meant to navigate the next chapter alone. The tribe was always meant to gather, not in a dramatic mystical sense, but in a grounded and undeniable way, where purpose pulls people together with absolute clarity. You are part of something unfolding across many lives at once. Something intelligent, something timely, something that feels like the world is finally exhaling after holding its breath for far too long. You're not just waking up, you're waking up with thousands of others who have been waiting for the same signal. And one by one, just like you, they're stepping back into their power because the world is finally ready for them. If you're still here, still watching, I truly appreciate you. Out of everything you could be giving your attention to right now, the fact that you're here means more than you realize. This shift we're stepping into is gentle but powerful, and it reaches the people who can feel change long before it arrives. You don't have to rush, you don't have to push, and you definitely don't need to solve your entire life overnight. Just take the next step that feels right. because the energy rising now has a way of clearing the road ahead and guiding you towards something brighter than what you left behind.